movement, their father or somebody involved was a preacher, and they hated it.
Yeah.
Right? It was a twisted version. They hated it.
I mean, the ACLU was headed by a preacher of the progressive movement. Americans for Democratic Action, headed by a preacher of the progressive movement. It is amazing how many of those progressive organizations were headed by preachers.
Jim Wallace. And Jim Wallace today, he's an amazing individual.
Who also takes money from George Soros.
No.
Yeah.
It's almost like George Soros, he is the head of the snake. Anyway, I want to go back to now some things that you have seen in the paper. I want to show you this, America, because this is practical application. This is stuff that is changing. And because of what is called, growing legal consensus, which our Supreme Court is now recognizing, not the Constitution. What does the rest of the world say? And that's how we make our laws. Listen to some of these stories.
Going back to that paradigm where that in a secular religious view, man is at the bottom and planet's at the top, everything else is above man. Here's a great article right there. That article is out of Nature magazine.
Reason magazine.
Reason magazine. How dare you install chlorophyll kind? And it says that Nature News is reporting the Swiss government's Ethics Committee on Non-Human Biotechnology has issued guidelines instructing researchers how to avoid offending the dignity of plants. If their projects are ruled as affront to plants, their funding will be pulled.
Really?
I don't think we do that for people.
Dignity of plants.
You can't offend the dignity of plants because plants, of course, are higher on the grid than people are.
In all fairness here, and this is one of the things that we were talking about during those evil capitalistic commercials that make this chip program possible, it talks about how hybrids are bad, and especially the hybrids that make the plant go sterile. You know, I'm sorry, but there's no Viagra for plants. I happen to agree with this one because I don't want, but for a different reason.
Yeah, that's right.
I think these hybrids are both good and bad. And when you make them go sterile, which you have to do because Dow has to, they have to maintain their patent. So they have to have you continue to buy the corn. That way they have the money to be able to feed the world. But unfortunately, when we make all of our corn, let's say, go sterile, if Dow goes under, if something happens, we don't have natural corn anymore. And it gives power to feed the world to a select number, whoever holds that patent, and that's very dangerous.
But here's the difference, Glenn. Your argument says, I don't want to do that because it may have dangerous consequences for humanity.
Because man,
the new Swiss Constitution says we don't want to do that because it might insult the integrity of the corn or of the wheat. But I haven't yet figured out. You know, so far no stalk of corn, no stalk of wheat has ever said to me, that was insulting. I'm offended.
May I tell you something?
I don't know what
May I tell you something? If there aren't already, and I bet you guys know, if there aren't already, there will be attorneys for plants.
Oh, absolutely. There already are. And of course, if you are a pantheist, then you think that you and the rest of the universe are all the same thing anyway. So your mind and the mind of the plants, you know, they're all the same thing, which may be accurate with some of these greenies.
And tell me, America, that we don't need to learn correct principles and restore common sense back into our place. Tell me that you can just unplug and don't worry about it. Oh, it's always been like this. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. At least not in the last couple hundred years here on this continent, back in America.